but start with your lifestyle. Because if you're going to move, if you're going to pick up all your things or listen to different episodes, but if you're going to take things with you across an ocean and you're going to move to a new life, you don't want to move to a new life that you're going to despise within 6 months because it doesn't have anything that you wanted or anything that you thought you'd have. Hi there, I'm Mistal Godlewski, an American girl who called the cornfields of Illinois home until over 10 years ago when I started navigating the chaos of life overseas. If you've ever felt that itch for something more, that whisper telling you to break free from the ordinary, you're in the right place. This podcast is your backstage pass to the wild ride of moving abroad. I'm here to pull back the curtain on the real journey, sharing stories that are funny, dramatic, and sometimes downright unbelievable. We'll explore the gritty details, from battling culture shock and navigating tricky visa processes to celebrating those small victories that make it all worth it. So whether you're daydreaming about a new life abroad or already in the thick of it, grab your passport and let's explore what it really means to live life beyond borders. Welcome to Abroadly Speaking. Welcome back to the Abroadly Speaking podcast. My name is Mistal Godlewski. I'm so glad you're here and that you decided to listen in. Today's episode is all about choosing where to live. So many people jump in and say, all right, I'm ready to move abroad. And they make the decision of where to live based on visa requirements in the country instead of really taking a step back and starting at the very beginning of the process. The very beginning of moving abroad is not Googling for visa requirements. The very beginning is, what kind of life do I want when I live abroad? And that's really the question for yourself. What kind of life do I want when I move? Because when you move, you get to make a decision about what's the most important things to you. For us, that looked like we wanted to be able to be outside every day, right? Or we want to be able to find a job, or we want sunshine, or we want beaches, or we want whatever it is that's appropriate for you and for your family. Those are the things that you have to start looking at. You want English speaking, you want a foreign language, you want anything, right? And for you, it will be different than for me, which will be different than for anybody else. I have a program called Abroad that I run that helps people move abroad, giving them a very clear, distinct roadmap all the way through the process, right? And in that program, we do offer a couple of lessons on choosing where to live. And I want to kind of run through a little bit of what that's like here today. If that's not interesting for you, that's all right. If you know where you want to live, then I would still think that this episode could be helpful for you because it can help you solidify where in the region or where in the country you want to live, right? Or if you're not 100% sure, then this one's really helpful. So let's get going. We've moved several times and had several different offers in between to move, right? So we've moved within the United States, we've moved within Europe, we've moved within Switzerland, we've moved a lot. And we've had a few times along the way where we've had job offers that we turned down because of its location. So one of the big things that we look at for us specifically, especially if one of us gets a job offer, is can the other one work? Can the other one make money? Can the other one contribute the way that they want to the household if we move there? We had an opportunity to move to northern Germany. We ruled that out very quickly because the only industry in the town or in the region that was reasonably close to get to was the one job place where my husband was offered, and I would not be able to get a job there. So for us, that was an easy no, right? That's an easy, that's not happening. Thank you for playing. Because we wanted both to be able to work. That was one of our requirements. Another thing that we look at is climate. If you are someone who absolutely hates snow, who absolutely hates the idea of ever living anywhere near the white stuff that isn't sand, then moving to Switzerland or moving to a very cold Northern European climate is probably not in your best interest, right? But that being said, you also theoretically could avoid snow by moving in Argentina, even though they have snow, for example, in the mountains of Argentina, down along the coastline, it's not necessary to have snow. And so there's a difference in thinking about not only the country that you want to live in, but where in that country you want to live. You can have a difference in climate from north to south, just like we get in the United States. where obviously California climate is very, very, very different than Washington climate, even though they're very close together, right? So start thinking about what kind of climate you want. Snow, sun, rain. Are you okay with rain, let's say half the year? Then Ireland is probably okay, or England is probably okay for you. But if you're like, dude, I hate rain, I hate snow, I hate cold, then you probably want to head farther south, right? Or you want to head to the Mediterranean maybe, or something like that. The next thing to look at is what kind of lifestyle do you want? Do you want to be inside all the time? Are you somebody who loves to go hiking in mountains? Are you somebody who wants to go skiing in the sun in the winter or in the summer, I guess? Are you someone who wants to go water skiing in the summer? Are you someone who absolutely needs to be able to scuba dive, on the weekends regularly? Maybe you don't have to live right next to the ocean or right next to the sea if you want to scuba dive on the weekends, but maybe you need to be within a reasonable driving distance of that, right? So that's going to narrow down your options. So a lot of it is really thinking about, okay, what is it that's really, really important to me for my lifestyle? What is it that's important to me that I want to be able to enjoy while I'm there? For us specifically, we wanted to be able to travel. That was one of the key elements for us. We wanted to be able to see things easily, but the key part was by public transportation. We didn't want to have to fly everywhere all the time. We didn't want to have to drive everywhere all the time, especially when we first moved because we didn't have a car. So we wanted to be able to hop on a train and see someplace new without having to spend an overnight on a train. So Switzerland offered that to us very easily and very well because we were able then to get on a train and within 3 hours, we're able to be in 6 different countries. So easy, yay, let's do that, right? And we also have access to big cities like Paris and Milan or Munich, all again within about a 3 or 4 hour train ride. It's not impossible to get to. It's 9 hours by train to Vienna. So that's pretty much the longest train ride I've ever taken, but that's how we work, right? So we take a look at those things and say, this is good for us. This is what we needed, what we wanted. Yours will probably look different, but those are things that you can consider. I also suggest that you consider things that you must not have when it comes to what you want in your experience, right? So if you're someone who absolutely hates to spend time outside, then you don't necessarily need to be looking for a country where the vast majority of activities are outdoor activities. Or if you're someone who cannot live without being outside, then you probably want to rule out a place that has horrifically bad air pollution, for example. So it's really looking at what you must have and what you must not have when it comes to all of these things, whether it comes to your lifestyle, it comes to language, it comes to your kids' school education, it comes to whatever it is that you're experiencing. One of the things that I suggest, and it seems so simple, but it's super helpful, is a pro and con list, or a have and must, or must have and must not have list, either one way you want to call it. Grab a blank piece of paper or your computer, but I personally think writing these down help, and write down on a list everything that you absolutely must have in your move. No questions, absolutely no argument. These are things that you do absolutely need to have. Then write down everything that you absolutely must not have. These are deal breakers for you. These are things that if it's there, you're out, peace out, Girl Scout, I'm not doing this anymore. So separate your list into two. Then start thinking about the countries where you've thought about moving or you haven't thought about moving yet, but think about that. Then you can start to rate them, say 1 through 5, 1 through 10, make up a rating system that works for you and rate the country based on your must haves and your must not haves, right? Take a look and say, okay, Spain, I must be able to travel to all of Europe within 3 hours without a car. Well, Spain is a little bit difficult because it's on the edge. So I can only really get within Spain or to France or maybe to Portugal within 3 hours, but I can't get to the rest of Europe within 3 hours. So that would, let's say that's a 1, right, on the score. But Switzerland is a 5 on that score because I can get almost anywhere in 3 hours or whatever, right? So start looking at those options. Once you get those down, once you start thinking through those, then you can add the more complicated review of where you want to move, such as cost of living, or you can look at, for example, the ability to find jobs. All of that can go on your list as well. But start with your lifestyle. Because if you're going to move, if you're going to pick up all your things or listen to different episodes, but if you're going to take things with you across an ocean and you're going to move to a new life, you don't want to move to a new life that you're going to despise within 6 months because it doesn't have anything that you wanted or anything that you thought you'd have. It's not complicated. Making that kind of decision is a big one, though. It's not hard to make that decision, but it is an important decision to make. And if you realize very quickly, oh man, I did this completely wrong, it becomes a challenge for you to enjoy your life abroad. And it absolutely becomes really hard to want to continue to live there. I highly, highly, highly suggest that once you kind of narrow down your country, and I don't know if it's one or two or three or 10, but once you start to narrow them down, then you can start narrowing down the regions within the country. For example, in Portugal, you absolutely can have a full beach life down in the Algarve coast. It's also going to be hot as Hades down there. I think it's like 40 degrees Celsius in the summer. That's what, 105 or so Fahrenheit scale. It's hot, right? Oh my goodness. That's something for me. I cannot live in 100-degree heat every day. It's too stinking hot for me. And so I'm like, nope, Algarve is out. But the northern part of Portugal, for example, has a beautiful beach area and it's completely not 40 degrees in the summer, 100 degrees in the summer. So it's somewhere where you can say, I don't have to rule out the entire country, but I need to kind of narrow down the region. And the same goes then for cost of living as you start looking through that. What is the cost of living in Porto versus what's the cost of living in Faro? And those are very different answers depending on where you want to go. So those are the things that I suggest that you start looking at before you start ever looking at what visa you want to get to. Because as soon as you jump in full force in the visas, it gets overwhelming. And you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And you could look up 168 different country requirements for visas and just feel overwhelmed. And 166 of those are countries that you probably don't really want to live in. Start with that. Start with what kind of life do I want to have for me and my family? What are my must-haves? What are my must-not-haves? And then start thinking through what countries that have those things that you're looking for or don't have those things that you're looking for. If you're unsure of where to find that information, you obviously Google is easy, but you could also look on Facebook groups where in the country that you're looking at or that you're considering, look at a map. I mean, pull out a map and look and see. Switzerland does not have beach access other than lakes, but Switzerland is not on an ocean. So obviously, if you're looking for scuba diving, that's not going to be something that you do easily here in the country. But that gives you a really easy place to start considering where to live. And then you can start looking for the visa requirements. And then you can start looking for how am I going to find a job and all these other things, right? Those are really, really important. One other thing to consider, especially if you're looking to work in the country, if you're moving on a retirement visa, that's a very different outlook. But if you're looking to work in the country, definitely check on industry lists. So almost every industry has like a professional society of something, right? Whatever that is for you. For the pharma industry, for example, I could look at PDA, the Pharmaceutical Development Association, or I could look at, pharmaceutical companies in Portugal, pharmaceutical companies in Switzerland, pharmaceutical companies in Spain, whatever it is, right? And look and see how much industry is available for you there. If you're a teacher or if you're a nurse or if you're in a highly variable field, meaning that it's sort of everywhere needs it, that makes it a lot easier. But if you're in a very specific niche industry, for example, if you're an aeronautical engineer, maybe you need to move to a place that has more airplane around. If you're a rocket scientist, you're not going to move to a place that doesn't have a space program, right? So those things are things to consider as well when you're thinking about it from a job perspective. have a look on LinkedIn and just randomly search on LinkedIn for jobs in Portugal, for jobs in your industry in Spain, for example, for jobs in your industry in Argentina, whatever that is, because that will help you narrow down, will I be able to find a job in my industry? Look also on those professional websites, those professional groups, if your industry has one, to see where that's available. You can also Google, for example, tech jobs in Switzerland or tech jobs in Germany. Those are both places where tech jobs are very highly sought after, or people in tech jobs are very highly sought after. But if you look for tech jobs in Peru, you may not find as many options, right? So those are great ways to get started as you consider it. And then that can go in your pro and con list. That goes into where you want to move list. And it helps you to narrow down the search before you go all in the deep end into visa research and things like that. If you've already ruled out a country because it's not going to give you the lifestyle that you want, then you don't have to worry about reviewing for the visa opportunities, right? So that's where I think it really helps to look at lifestyle, look at education, look at opportunities there, look at jobs. There's more than that as well. I mean, if other things are important to you, obviously look for what's important to you. Think about it. Think about where you want to go and what kind of life that you want with your family while you're there. All right, my friend, that is all I have for this one. I talked a lot for this one. Hopefully this is helpful for you as you're starting to consider your process of moving abroad. If you're interested in the abroad program, where we literally go into every single detail about visas, budgeting, how to get the schools for your kids, how to find a job, how to make your resume work wherever you're living, how to settle in and build a home in your new country, let me know. I have a unique framework we call REACH. It's our research and register, export and ship, accounting and budget, children and care, career and professional life, and home and health. So we go through all the different details of your life abroad. As you know, as you're here, you've been around for a while, or you're new here. I've been an expat, or I call myself an immigrant, but a lot of people use expat. I've been an immigrant to Switzerland, and I lived in Austria for the last 11 years, at the time of recording at least. And I absolutely have a ton of experience moving between countries, moving abroad, and living my life here. We've settled here into Switzerland now full time. We own a house. We're here. We're hopefully not moving again for a little while, but it's absolutely the best place that we could have found for ourselves. And we absolutely use this list to help us settle in and figure out where we want it to be. But if you're interested in more about abroad, feel free to DM me over on Instagram at I am Mistel, or you can reach out to me at welcome@mistelgodlewski.com. You can email me there. Like I said, it's welcome, WELCOME at Mistel, MISTELLE, Godlewski, GODLEWSKI.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the about the abroad program. Otherwise, I will see you on the next one. I hope this one was useful. Let me know on Instagram or on email or wherever that this is helpful for you. I would absolutely love if you could leave a 5-star review. If you're so inclined, just hit the like and subscribe button so that we can keep this podcast growing for more people who want to move abroad. All right, my friend, I will see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in to Broadly Speaking. If today's episode got you dreaming a little bigger or thinking a little braver, go ahead and hit subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who's ready for their own adventure. And hey, don't be a stranger. Come hang out with me over on Instagram at I am Mistel for the real, unfiltered life abroad. Keep that passport handy, and remember, life's too short to stay in one place.